Boundaries honors you. It honors your energy. It honors your needs. It honors your space. It's not about controlling others or other people's energy. It's all about you.
Where truth resides, done and shone, right by your
Ever feel like you're
side.
constantly giving, saying yes when you want to say no, or leaving conversations emotionally drained? You're not alone. And the missing piece might be boundaries. Today, we're diving into boundaries, what they are, why you struggle with them, and how you can change relationships or even sense of self. If you ever felt stretched too thin or like you're losing yourself in the name of keeping the peace, this episode's for you. Shauna, what say you?
What say me? What
Woohoo!
boundaries?
You like that?
Like that. That was some coming in with. I like it. Especially when the main key is boundaries today. Uh,
Yes.
if you missed our other episode, make sure you go check that out with self-doubt because this all comes together here. And setting boundaries is very, very, I find very important. How many varies did I give? Three? You know, I feel like, boundaries, it honors you. It honors your energy. It honors your needs. It honors your space. It's not about controlling others or other people's energy or space or anything. It's all about you. And I think sometimes people get lost in what boundaries really are. It's not a wall, it's a boundary. What do you feel about what boundaries are?
Well, I guess the thing that would when you hear the word wall, like you said, it kind of people worry about that. But
Hmm.
I think we should see boundaries as limits. Okay.
Ooh.
And so there are limits that we set or anyone sets. And they can be emotional, they can be physical, they can be mental, they can be energetic, but there are
Hmm.
limits that we set to protect our well-being. And
Hmm.
therefore we help to define our relationships with them. We help to
Yes.
define our even our responses to relationships and responses to what do you call it, stimuli,
Oh yeah.
and so it's like, hey, and I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Somebody at work that you work with asks you an extremely personal question. You're like, wait a minute, see, that's not a wall, it's just a limit. It's like, that's,
Right. Like,
I know
hold
you
up.
well, but I don't know you that well. And
Right.
that's a boundary, a limit that, I'm not willing to let you go beyond because you're not part of that inner circle of my personal life. And so
Right.
again, that's an example of how they work. And they're not, it's not meant as an insult, it's not meant as a
Mm-mm.
disrespect. If anything, it's a self-respect. In my opinion, if you create
Absolutely.
boundaries, you're creating self-respect, and you're helping to facilitate good communication, because when someone knows the boundaries, then they don't have
Hmm.
to worry about bumping against them and then feeling like, okay, I just violated somebody that I didn't intend to for some reason or other.
Hmm. You know, it's protecting your peace,
Oh,
in
absolutely.
my opinion. And it's also in the background, it's helping you stay grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Literally, what's true to you when people overstep their boundaries? Either you check them or don't check them,
Mm-hmm.
but then it also helps you, like you said, maintain that self-respect.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't honor your own boundaries, how do you expect other people to honor your boundaries?
Exactly.
Okay. And today's show is going to be a great breakdown of what boundaries are, why they matter, and really how to set them in real life.
Yep.
Okay, it's really easy here of setting boundaries. And you said it, number one is knowing your limits.
Yep.
Okay, that's the first, that's number one.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know your limits, then how can you uh, alarm or let other people know what your boundaries are. It
Exactly.
really starts with your self-awareness and really recognizing it. So what feels safe to you?
Hmm.
Um, what's draining you or what's even disrespecting you? Because I'd be darned if a coworker come up to me and be like, hey, what's in your bank account? Or, what's your private life
Hmm.
look like? As an example. And it's like, none of your business.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know?
And it's
Uh,
interesting too because sometimes when we struggle, I think that sometimes we struggle with boundaries because there comes with it
mhm.
an internalized fear that be we may create a rejection situation, so where people may think we're rejecting them, or
Right.
that or an abandonment, or that, and so it's like, again, you're not creating a rejection, you're not creating abandonment. What you're saying is that you can come up to this point but no further, therefore
Mhm.
again ensuring that they know that they're a part of something in the part of this, but at the
Mhm.
same time you avoid the conflict. And therefore, because we are self-pleasing people, we like, people can't help but want to please other people, that we're
Right.
afraid to create potential issues. But the funny part is by creating the boundaries you avoid the conflict.
Mhm.
Therefore, you can avoid the issues. You'll have to take them on eventually. Why don't you do it up
Yeah.
front, right?
Right.
And part of that is
Right.
cultural conditioning as well. I mean, the reality is
Hmm.
cultural and family conditioning tells us, I can go where I want. I can intrude to a degree. And you're like, maybe not so much, because that may be your family culture and that may be
Right.
your, the way in which you learned, but that doesn't set for everybody. So again, it's one of those things that it's that internal struggle when you set them, the guilt that you go
Yes.
through about saying, am I being selfish? Well, when you
Right.
have your personal boundaries, you better be selfish.
You better be. That's all. But here's the thing, you are being responsible for your feelings.
Yes.
You are being responsible. You're not responsible for everybody else. You're
Yeah.
responsible for your feelings. So boundaries really help you to prevent, you know, emotional entanglement,
Yes.
with others. But it's really, no, you're holding your own self accountable, and being responsible. Like, yeah, I am selfish. You right. You
Hmm.
right. Because this is protecting my peace.
Yeah.
This is protecting my energy. And these boundaries is helping you.
Yeah.
Not just myself, but it's helping you.
Yeah.
And when we say it, to respect self and other, it's literally what's first. Self is first.
Yeah.
So having healthy boundaries and not walls,
Hmm.
okay, are really what we said from the beginning,
Hmm.
respectful limits.
Yeah.
That's it.
And those boundaries, Shauna,
Hmm.
they're not just emotional.
Yeah.
And so many people think, I'm creating an emotional barrier, and the emotional part comes from energy and saying no and those kind of things, and don't let people dump on you and that kind of stuff. But there's
Oh,
also
yes.
physical barriers, personal space. What
Hmm.
don't
Yes.
I like you and so forth, but you ain't touching me. Sorry, I don't need that.
Don't,
Or
don't.
hey, I need, or the other thing is, I need a little more, a little hug from time to time, and that's
Yeah.
your boundary that you set and say, okay, a hug is fine. But somebody else may say, no, I'm not into the huggy thing. Or
Right.
there's also the mental aspects about it, because of mental boundaries, such as
Oh,
protecting your
yeah.
beliefs, protecting your thoughts and your opinions. You're welcome to your opinion. I'm not going to
Mhm.
cross that boundary and tell you your opinion's wrong. I'm saying that I don't agree with your opinion. And so
Right.
again, it's a mental situation. It's time, respecting time of others. Again, that's a
Absolutely.
boundary. I don't want to be, I don't appreciate you being late. I don't
Mm-mm.
appreciate you not showing up. That's again my time, respecting my time. So that's a boundary.
Right.
The
Right.
digital uses, sitting there and sitting at dinner and watching somebody in front of you texting or sending, you're like, wait a
That
minute,
gets so irritating.
you've crossed the digital boundary there, because that's a social construct that's not so, I'm
Absolutely.
talking with you here, right?
Like, look, I didn't text you. I didn't
Yeah.
tell you, like, oh, let me text you and see what you want to eat. No,
Yeah.
we sit and we're having dinner. I think so. That is like my thing now. Like when we go
Hmm.
out to eat, I'm always watching. people interact at a table
Oh,
because people
yes.
forget the first thing that they do is pick up the phone and after they order whatever and then they just bam, both parties are that way.
Yeah.
I can see if you got that ding that says you got
Mhm.
money coming through. Bam, it get me in the right account. Bam, I like that ding. Or
Exactly.
you get an important phone call
Yeah.
that. But when you take time out and you spend with someone and you're respecting yourself and the other, like, come on.
Yeah.
Put the phone down. I mean, and you don't have no conversation until the end, like,
Mhm.
all right, who paying for the check? Or
Yeah.
not even that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, automatically, the thing is about being consistent and being clear, having
Mhm.
clear communication on
Yeah.
what these boundaries are.
You know,
When
it's
you
interesting.
don't,
Go ahead.
it's crazy. Go ahead.
Now, I was just gonna say it's interesting because that point is what we have lived with
Yes.
kids, and it's interesting with our kids is we would go to restaurants and we would see a family of four or five, parents with the kids, and
Mhm.
everybody on their iPads or their phones sitting at the table when
Yes.
this is me time and conversation time or whatever based on my old construct of what thinking family is, and I
Right.
looked and I thought, man, is that what I want for my family? And no, if it's
Oh,
theirs, it's fine, but not for mine. And so for our
right.
family, it's like the table, we used to have the rule, you do not bring the phone to the table. It does not
No.
come with you. And
Well,
it used to
shoot.
drive our
When we
kids
were growing
crazy.
up, there was no tape, there was no phones. No
Yeah.
phone, no beepers, no
Mm-hmm.
phones and no tables.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is the other part where the boundary makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Saying no.
Yeah.
Saying no. No
Mm-hmm.
explanation, no explaining it,
Mm-hmm.
no apologizing excessively for saying no.
Mm-hmm.
That is the core part of setting
Mm-hmm.
boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It may feel uncomfortable at first, but it'll get better. It'll start feeling better because no is a complete sentence.
Yeah. Exactly. Often with me, there's an exclamation point afterwards.
What? It's all in
Not just
caps.
no.
Right.
Oh
So
my
it's like
goodness. Mm.
no exclamation point. Or you add an extra O's to it if you have to. No.
I have heard it with an expletive in the front of it from time to time too.
Right. Oh,
Not
or
just no.
of the right of the great words of Whitney Houston, all hail to the no.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. Oh
No,
my gosh. It's interesting
no
too.
is good.
Yes, it's interesting too because sometimes I don't think because of our cultural conditioning, because of our training,
Yes.
that we don't sometimes understand how to set boundaries. And so
Yeah.
I'm gonna give a few pieces of advice, and you can surely jump in as well.
Yes.
And that is, first of all, identify what feels uncomfortable or draining. Identify it
Yes.
in a situation when it's happening, and then say, you know what, I'm going to create a boundary for this so later on I don't have to deal with this again. And so
Absolutely.
so think about and let your life experiences lead you in that way, because again, you won't be able to think about them all at the same time, but when they happen, say, you know what, this is a teachable moment, this is a learning experience.
Right.
When you do finally set a boundary, make sure you use the word because again, it is your boundary. This is the one time
Absolutely.
that you want to say, I feel uncomfortable when I'm not comfortable with, those
Be
kinds of
direct.
things.
Be
Exactly.
direct.
And make it clear that again, it's not saying that you are wrong. It's not
Hmm.
saying that you've done something wrong. You're saying,
Hmm.
I feel, this is what
Hmm.
I want. Because again,
It's all
that
about
doesn't
you.
cast aspersions. It's just more like, hey, this is my inner peace here we're talking about, right? Also be
Yes.
direct but compassionate. Again, say, I don't feel comfortable with that, instead of saying
That's
don't do
it.
that and I'm telling you never do that. It's like, again, bring compassion to the story, but be direct, right?
Absolutely.
And
It
then
it comes
also
back to you. It comes back
absolutely, yeah.
to
Yep.
what you feel.
Yeah.
This is your boundary. This
Yep.
is y'all got to listen to this. This is That I is very important.
Yep.
Even if you go to see a therapist
Mm-hmm.
and they tell you, hey, you need to voice your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what you going to start with?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like da 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 da.
Yep.
Okay, well, you can be direct in saying what your boundary is.
Yep.
I I am not comfortable with this. I don't like it because you're not putting it on someone else and
Right.
making them feel crazy.
Right.
You're just letting people know, look, I'm not rocking with that and I
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be here for that.
Yeah.
Or I don't have to accept that. But
Okay.
it's very important to use the word I feel as well.
Yep. And something else you mentioned earlier, it's super, super important, is
Mhm.
say no without over explaining. When you say
Yes.
this is my boundary, no need to explain it. Ain't nobody's damn business. Because the
No.
most important thing is saying, this is my feeling, therefore I own it. So when I say the boundary, I don't have to over explain. If you start over explaining, you complicate it, and therefore
Yeah,
you may even get muddled in what you're doing. So let's not muddle the waters. Let's not make it get crazy. Let's just say no and don't over explain, and be prepared to
yes.
enforce and reinforce consistently those boundaries.
Yes.
Because remember, when you set a boundary, if you give in, or from time to time let that boundary come down a little bit, then you can't be upset that it falls eventually. So again, be
Yeah.
prepared
Has
to
no
enforce
meaning.
it and reinforce
Hmm.
it and consistently
Hmm.
do so, and you're going to find that that works better. It works to your advantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important. And another thing I will say of setting your boundaries, expect to be discomfortable. Well, I don't even think that's a word. Discomfort?
Discomfort. There you
Maybe
go. Yeah.
not discomfortable,
Well, it's a word
but
now. We're gonna
expect
we're gonna
this.
make it a word.
We just made that word today, y'all. But
Exactly.
expect discomfort, not conflict.
Yep.
That's the difference.
Yep.
Okay. You may feel guilty just because, wait, maybe I didn't I was too harsh. No. You're setting your boundary and you set it, being consistent with it,
Mm-hmm.
standing on it, like you stand in your belief.
Mm-hmm.
You protecting that, you respecting that. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means you're doing something new.
Yep.
That's the thing. You're not doing anything wrong by setting your own boundary and letting yourself and others know what you go for and what you don't go for.
Yep.
And people telling you when you stick to your boundary, there's going to be pushback.
Oh
It
yeah.
always is because there's a change. It's a change.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, wait a minute, I did that before. You didn't say anything. Well, guess what? That was before. Now I'm saying no.
That's This is new. This is the new thing that I'm doing. So every
Exactly.
time that you hold a boundary, you really enforce trust back
Yes.
into yourself.
Yes.
Okay. And you're trusting what you can do. You're trusting what your growth, and you see your growth. You're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
dang, wait a minute. I didn't know I had that in me. Yeah, now stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just stay in and be like, yeah, whatever. And then the next day or in 5 minutes, you change your mind. No, stick to it, like Don said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, I wanna also just piggyback off what just go a little bit further of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
things that you can do
Mm-hmm.
that will help you set your boundaries. Write out, if you got to, write out your non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What list some behaviors that or situations or even energy that you don't even want to no longer tolerate. Okay, because that will also help you. I love writing stuff down and I write stuff down all the time. So that's another part of taking the time out for your journal and writing out your non-negotiables. All right.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a great thing to do. And practicing saying no.
Mm-hmm.
Make a song. Um, someone asks you something. Nope, nope. I
Yeah.
mean, not don't do it out of spite. Put it
Mm-hmm.
that way. Don't be saying
Exactly.
no out of spite.
Yeah. You
Say
stay
no
calm
when
and assertive. So when you say no, you just say no or nope. But again, it's a calming and assertive way instead of
yeah,
and it's received. It would be received well enough. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. take some time alone, take breaks that you need. That really helps you understand what your boundaries are, understand what your needs are, what your physical needs are, what your emotional needs are, and what is draining you.
Hmm.
You got to look at that. What is draining you?
Well, and that's one of the
Going to
red flags,
digital
Shauna,
things.
as well,
Yeah.
in my opinion. One of the
Mm-hmm.
red flags of when boundaries are being crossed is
Mm-hmm.
when you are feeling drained or
Mm-hmm.
disrespected or burnt out. That means somebody's crossed your boundaries because, again, you
Yes, they
should
have.
not be in that space if your boundaries are there and therefore you're not being overwhelmed with one of those things. So, that to me
Yeah.
is one of those red flags. When you're feeling that,
Yes.
you know someone is crossing your boundaries. Or
Yeah.
if you haven't set a boundary yet, maybe you need to set one because that should not be a way you feel. If you're feeling
Right.
overwhelmed, taken advantage of, if you're having
Mm-hmm.
difficulty making decisions for yourself or you're having guilt,
Mm-hmm.
these are warnings. These are red flags that
That's a whole
boundaries need
red
to be set.
flag. That is the red flag. That's the emergency warning that comes up on the phone, honey. That
Burp, burp, burp.
right. That is that is number one.
Yes.
That's the most important one, I feel like, of the red
Mhm.
flags,
Yeah.
what is even all the way down to digital things. When you scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, it's all of that, draining you, or are you just tired of watching? Change that up. I say go in and clear out your history, or what is it, your catch, or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
Clear that thing out so you can welcome in new and say, wait a minute, if that does come up and that was the old, I'm bam, unfollow or don't even follow it or whatever.
Hmm.
Just have that reset.
Hmm.
Don't We take a lot of resets, I feel, and they are healthy resets.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
You take resets from social interactions. You take
Hmm.
resets from work. Take a day off if you have to. Take time away from, emotionally draining type of conversations where you
Hmm.
just know what it's about to be. Take a reset. So that means take a walk, be
Hmm.
in silence, really check in with self is
Hmm.
a great reset.
Hmm.
Okay. That's what
Also,
I have about boundaries.
yeah. Also,
Any more
also,
red flags with boundaries
well,
that you got?
the one thing I would suggest is understanding control versus influence, because again that's one of the conflicts that come with enforcing boundaries is people say,
Mhm.
I don't want to be controlled. Well, you're not controlling them.
Nope.
You're influencing them on how they are to work with you. You're not telling
Mhm.
them, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that for everybody else. You're just saying, hey, work with me. When you work with me, I'm influencing you to make sure you understand that this is our work. These are our boundaries. These are our set of rules. These are our guidelines, however you want to put it, right?
Boom.
And then also not needing their approval. Because
Boom.
again, if you're setting out your boundaries,
Yes.
there may be times where people don't really like those boundaries, but that doesn't matter because they're yours, and therefore don't look for their approval. Because if
Yes.
you do look for their approval, you may create conflict because they're like, well, but maybe you need to know. No, I don't need to. If I did, I would have.
Mm.
And again, that
Right.
goes back to that calm assertiveness, right? It's like,
Right.
yeah, I
Right.
understand what you're saying, but we aren't doing it that way. I
Right.
understand that you may not like that, but we're not doing it that way.
Right.
I mean,
Especially
again,
when
it's
you the
that
one started it.
exactly. It's that ownership. It's super, super important because that goes
Absolutely.
back to self worth. And again, boundaries are
Hmm.
all about self worth. It's a
Absolutely.
reflection of self love. If you love yourself,
Oh,
then tell
that's
people,
nice.
hey, I have limits, I have boundaries because I want to continue to love myself.
Yeah.
Standing up for yourself, boundaries are part of standing up for yourself. It's like, what? I have created my persona. I have created it's like somebody messing with your reputation, and you're like,
Yes.
wait a minute, I have worked hard to build my reputation. I'm not going to let you come in
Yes.
and cross that boundary and destroy my reputation. It's kind of the same thing. Again, you're building
Mm.
those you've worked hard on self-worth. Don't and if you don't have these boundaries and you don't protect them and reinforce them, then you put
Mm-hmm.
those things at risk, and again, it protects your energy. It protects your
Absolutely.
identity, because you own who you are until somebody
Right.
tries to recreate that based on who they think they want you to be. It's like, I am
Right.
who you want me to be. I am who I am.
Yes. So
You know?
here's a nice reminder to all of y'all, okay? Boundaries don't make you selfish, they make you honest.
Yes.
That's it. They
Yep.
make you they are act of love for
Hmm.
yourself, like you said, self-love. This is self-care. Put that in self-development, self-growth, all of that, and for your relationships
Hmm.
or whatever. But it's so right. You are protecting your peace. You are protecting who you are. So it just makes you honest. Not too
Absolutely.
blunt, but honest.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's finding that balance between, again, how you deliver your boundaries. Again, because again, once you
Yes.
set your boundaries, it's all about you, me, I. But
Yes.
once you do, then when you deliver the boundary, again, it's finding that
Hmm.
compassion, that mix of compassion, empathy,
Yes.
and self-protection, and saying, you know what, you know, I totally love you. I think you're great, but here's the wall. Here's
Here's
the
the
limit.
yes. Here's the limit. Not wall, but here's the
Yeah.
limit.
Yes,
Walls
exactly.
are totally different, and that'll be probably another episode of talking about walls.
Exactly.
The difference
Yeah.
between boundaries and walls. But a boundary is literally you knowing what your limits are
Yep.
in simpler terms. So know your limit. Know what you will accept and what you won't accept.
Yep.
And what's your non-negotiables?
Hmm.
What you willing to negotiate? What you not willing to
Hmm.
negotiate? Okay. And what are you willing to protect? And what are you willing or what is draining you? I think these are great questions
Hmm.
for you. If you like to journal, write these questions down
Hmm.
and really dive deep and ask yourself these things.
Yeah. So remember, folks, when you're looking at exhaustion, you're looking at frustration, you're looking at irritation, you're looking at people pushing your buttons, those kind of things.
Mm,
Anytime you see that, think about this
mm-mm,
conversation and say, what boundary can I create? What
mm-hmm.
limit can I put on this situation? Therefore, taking this stressor out of my
Yes.
life and helping to make things easier for me to flow, and additionally helping them, whoever it may be that's doing this, to understand, and therefore they can still maintain a role in my life, but in a
Yes.
way that we both can be comfortable, and neither one of us then burn out on the other. And that's super, super important. So again, when we come today, what we're suggesting to you is that create your boundaries, understand
Mm-hmm.
why you need them, make sure they are clear, concise, to the point, but delivered in a
Yes.
compassionate way, and then
Mm-hmm.
reinforce them continuously, but reinforce them not only for them, but for you, for self-love, for self-care. Because again, if you are not happy, healthy, and whole, then that creates a problem for everybody around you. So boundaries are
Yes.
beneficial to everybody, even if they're very me-centric. They are
Yes.
extremely beneficial to.
Yes. It's honoring your energy, it's honoring your needs, it's honoring you.
Yes.
Use I when you express your
Yep.
boundaries.
Yep.
Don't project on someone else. Okay.
Exactly.
Use I. It's very,
Yep.
very important because there is a clear understanding of what you're trying to get across
Yep.
and what your limits are.
Yep. And go back to the fact that, hey, you heard these two great folks on this amazing
Yes.
podcast tell me I needed boundaries. So blame it on
Yes.
us.
Yes. Blame
It's
it on
okay.
outside.
I got broad shoulders. I
Don't
got, you know
blame it
what?
on the alcohol. Just blame it on us.
Hopefully, it helps you with some information that you may not have
Yes.
known, or it gives you a different perspective on the information you already knew. No matter what, please check out the episodes we have. There are more coming down the pike once a week. This is Shauna Sellers over here to on this side of the screen. And I'm Don Rimmer Rivera. This is Conversations for the Conscious Mind.
Yes.
Adios, Miss Shauna.
Adios.